The room was so silent you could hear the steady tick of Grandma's old clock perched on the mantel. 15 relatives squeezed into her living room, the air heavy with lavender potpourri, and heavier still with judgment. I was 32, sitting in my usual chair by the window, the one no one else ever wanted, when my sister rose in her tailored $3,000 suit and declared she was tripling my rent. $6,800, she pronounced, like a judge delivering a sentence. Effective next month. Some relatives smirked, others shifted uncomfortably. I remained calm, because I knew something she didn't. But before I tell you how I handled that moment, and the building, let me take you back to the years that shaped everything. Growing up as Victoria's younger sister meant living in a shadow so vast it nearly swallowed me whole. She was the golden child, Harvard Law, summa cum laude, partner at 35. I was the ordinary one, a state school graduate with a degree in property management, working as an assistant manager at a mid-sized firm. Every family gathering followed the same script. Aunt Patricia, did you hear? Victoria just closed a $10 million merger. Someone would gush. Then came the inevitable, sympathetic head tilt toward me. And Madison, you're still at that property thing? Yes, I was still at that property thing. And I loved it. Walking through buildings, analyzing market values, spotting potential where others only saw problems. It fascinated me. But fascination wasn't currency in my family. To them, and especially to Victoria, I was the underachiever. The one in need of guidance, correction, and tough love. For 5 years, I rented a 2-bedroom on Riverside Drive, one of Grandma's old buildings. Victoria managed it pro bono, never missing a chance to remind the family of her sacrifice. She set my rent at $2,200, calling it a family discount. The market rate was $2,400, so it wasn't much of a discount at all. Still, she made sure I never forgot her so-called generosity. Most people in your salary range couldn't afford this neighborhood, she'd say, flashing that patronizing smile. And I believed her. I paid every month on time, even when the dishwasher broke and she took 3 months to fix it, even when the heat failed in the dead of winter. I never complained. Because that was my role. The younger sister who should be grateful for scraps. But 3 years before that fateful day, something shifted. Something Victoria never knew. When Grandma was still alive, I helped her sort through her finances every Sunday. She was sharp, even in her 80s, but she trusted me to explain her investment statements and keep her records in order. One evening, she pulled me aside and pressed a business card into my hand. "Your sister means well," she whispered, "but she doesn't see everything. Sometimes the quiet ones are the smartest. Remember that when the time comes." I didn't understand then, but months later, after her passing, I received a call. Not from the family attorney Victoria always used, but from Grandma's personal lawyer. She had left me something outside the main estate, a private inheritance. Enough for a strategic investment. Enough to change everything. Fast forward to that Tuesday in Grandma's living room. Victoria stood tall, pen in hand, legal pad at the ready, and made her declaration. "Your current rent is $2,200, far below market," she began, clicking through color-printed graphs. "Comparable units are going for at least $6,800. I've been subsidizing your lifestyle for 5 years. That's $240,000 out of my pocket." Aunt Patricia gasped as though Victoria had donated a kidney. "Victoria, you're such a saint." Victoria smiled, the kind of smile designed to draw applause. "I don't want praise. I just want fairness. Madison, you're 32 now. It's time to stand on your own 2 feet. Effective next month, your rent will be $6,800. The silence was suffocating. 15 faces stared back at me, and not one came to my defense. Not after 5 years of paying on time. Not after helping Grandma with her books while Victoria was too busy. Nothing. She slid the new lease across the table. I'll need this signed today. I stared at the paper, then at my phone. One text sent 20 minutes earlier. A reply already waiting. On my way. Documents ready. I wasn't the same Madison they thought I was. Not anymore. Victoria mistook my silence for surrender. Let me make this educational for everyone, she said, pulling up Zillow listings. Here's what Madison's apartment should cost: $7,200, $7,500, $8,100. I'm actually giving her a discount at $6,800. My phone buzzed. 15 minutes out. Uncle Ted cleared his throat. Victoria, that's quite a jump. It's market rate, she snapped, cutting him off. Successful people pay market rate. Madison works in property management. She should understand this better than anyone. Laughter rippled through the room. My cousin Derek smirked. Guess you'll need 3 roommates. Every word dug in, every smirk another reminder of the role they assumed I could never shed. Mediocre, dependent, failing. Victoria leaned in, her voice thick with condescension. Sign the lease, Madison, or start packing. I've already got 3 applications from Columbia Law students. They're offering $7,000. The threat hung in the air, and I almost smiled, because Victoria didn't know the truth. She didn't know that the building she thought she controlled, the one she'd used to lord over me, was mine. 3 years earlier, with Grandma's gift, my savings, and every ounce of quiet determination I possessed, I'd purchased the building through a holding company. Every legal paper, every renovation, every rent check funneled through me. And now, with the whole family watching, she was about to find out. I held the lease, tracing the bold numbers with my fingertip as if studying a cruel joke inked on paper. My heart hit once. Hard. But my face betrayed nothing. Years of being underestimated had schooled me in the art of stillness. Victoria smirked, reading my silence as surrender. Good. You're finally learning to listen. Sign, and this will all be behind us. The room filled with the heavy, smug weight of her arrogance. My mother shifted in her chair but said nothing. My father stared at his hands. No one stood for me, not one person. And yet, I didn't feel small anymore. I felt steady. I set the pen down. No. The word was soft, but it sliced sharper than any blade. Heads turned. Aunt Patricia gasped. Victoria froze, her smile faltering for the first time all evening. What do you mean, no? She demanded, her voice dripping with indignation. I said slowly, locking eyes with her. You don't have the authority to raise my rent. Her eyes narrowed. Excuse me? The doorbell rang. Perfect timing. My pulse quickened, not with fear, but with the thrill of what was about to unfold. Victoria scoffed. Who could that be? I rose, calm and deliberate, and walked to the door. When I opened it, a man in a dark suit stepped inside, leather briefcase in hand. He nodded to me, then addressed the room with polished professionalism. Good evening. I'm Mr. Carver, representing Riverside Holdings LLC. I have documents for the tenants of this building. The air shifted. Confusion rippled across the room. Victoria frowned. Tenants? What is this? I manage this property. Mr. Carver adjusted his glasses. Not anymore. Riverside Holdings purchased the building 3 years ago. I'm here tonight on behalf of the owner. The color drained from Victoria's face. That's impossible. I would have known. I stepped forward, my voice steady, loud enough for every relative to hear. You didn't know because you never bothered to ask. You were too busy lecturing me about how to stand on my own 2 feet, too busy humiliating me at every opportunity. But while you were climbing your ladder, I was building my foundation. Whispers erupted. My cousin Derek muttered, Wait, what? My mother's eyes flew wide. Victoria spun toward me, fury cracking through her shock. You're lying. Mr. Carver opened his briefcase and laid a thick stack of documents on the coffee table. Title deeds, tax receipts, renovation permits, all signed by me. Madison Irving, he said clearly, is the sole owner of this building. The room fell silent. Even Grandma's clock seemed to stop. Victoria staggered back a step, her face draining, her composure unraveling. No, this can't be. I met her gaze, unflinching. You tried to triple my rent on a building that doesn't even belong to you. You tried to evict me from my own property, and you did it in front of everyone, hoping to humiliate me. But tonight, you humiliated yourself. The silence broke under a dozen reactions. Aunt Patricia whispered, "Oh my God." My father cleared his throat, shifting uneasily. My mother's lips parted as if she might speak, but no words came. Victoria shook her head violently. "This isn't fair. You tricked me. You—" "No, Victoria," I cut in, my voice firmer now. "I didn't trick you. I just stopped letting you trick me." She opened her mouth again, but nothing came out. The power she had wielded so casually, so cruelly, slipped from her fingers in an instant. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the overlooked sister. I wasn't the underachiever, the charity case, the one who needed her scraps. I was the one holding the deed. And as Victoria's face blanched before 15 stunned relatives, the weight of years of humiliation lifted off me like smoke clearing from a fire. Her mouth opened and closed, like she was drowning in air, desperate for something to cling to. The same relatives who once nodded along with her lectures now shifted uncomfortably, uneasy with their silence, uneasy with their complicity. No one rushed to defend her. No one dared. "You can't do this," she stammered at last, her voice trembling in a way I had never heard before. "You can't just take everything from me." I tilted my head, calm in a way that only comes after years of swallowing pain. "I didn't take anything from you, Victoria. You never had it to begin with." Her face twisted, but Grandma left me in charge. She trusted me. "She trusted you to manage, not to own," I replied evenly. "She trusted me with something bigger. And while you were busy performing for everyone, I was listening to her." Mr. Carver cleared his throat politely, adjusting his papers. "If I may," he said, scanning the room. "Ms. Madison Irving has been the legal owner since the purchase 3 years ago. Every tenant in this building pays rent directly to her holding company, including, technically." He paused, his gaze flicking toward Victoria. "Your unit." The gasp that followed was sharp, almost theatrical. "My unit," Victoria repeated, horrified, as if the words themselves were poison. I folded my arms, years of humiliation hardening my voice into steel. "Yes, Victoria. You tried to raise my rent on a building where you're the tenant. Do you understand now?" Aunt Patricia whispered. "Oh my heavens," while Uncle Ted muttered something about karma. My cousin Derek, for once, kept his smirk to himself. Victoria's composure shattered. "This isn't possible. I won't pay you a cent. You'll pay, or you'll leave," I cut in, calm but unyielding. "The same choice you so gleefully gave me." She looked around the room, desperate for rescue, but none came. My parents sat frozen. My mother's hand gripped her wineglass so tightly I thought it might shatter. My father's jaw worked as though he wanted to speak, but no sound emerged. For the first time, they couldn't shield her. I leaned closer, my voice low enough to seem private, though I knew every ear in the room was straining to hear. "You thought you could crush me. You thought you could humiliate me. But here's the truth, Victoria. While you were busy climbing, I was already standing higher than you ever realized." Her lips trembled. "You're cruel." "No," I whispered back. "I'm finally done being your victim." The words fell heavy, like a judge's gavel. Final. Undeniable. Mr. Carver snapped his briefcase shut. That concludes my business for tonight. Good evening. He shook my hand, nodded to the stunned audience, and walked out. The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria collapsed into her chair, her once perfect posture broken, her eyes glassy and unfocused. I turned toward the door, 15 years of belittlement sliding from my shoulders with every step. I didn't need applause. I didn't need their approval. The look on my sister's pale face, and the silence of those who had once joined her laughter, was enough. Outside, the night air met me cool and clean, laced with the faint promise of rain. I paused on the sidewalk, gazing up at the windows of the building that was mine, the building where my sister had once tried to reduce me to nothing more than a tenant under her heel. For the first time, I didn't feel small when I looked at it. I felt steady, rooted, powerful. Inside, voices still murmured, but to me, they were nothing more than a fading hum. I imagined my relatives shifting uncomfortably in their chairs, replaying the moment when Victoria's mask cracked, when her smugness collapsed into shock. I imagined them whispering in kitchens the next day, telling their friends, "We never knew Madison had it in her." And that was fine. Let them talk. For once, the story wouldn't be about how Victoria saved me. It would be about how I saved myself. The fallout came quickly. At first, Victoria avoided me, retreating into silence. But soon, the calls began. Pleading, desperate, always at odd hours. Her voice trembled in ways I'd once thought impossible. "Can we work something out?" she begged one night. "You can't really expect me to pay rent to you. I'm your sister." I almost laughed. Sister? The same word she'd used as a weapon for years, to remind me I was the lesser one, the weaker one. Now she wielded it like a shield, fragile and paper-thin. "You raised my rent to $6,800 without blinking," I reminded her calmly. "Why should I treat you differently?" Her silence on the line was all the answer I needed. Then came my parents. My mother called, her voice brittle and cold. "You've humiliated your sister. Do you know what you've done to this family's reputation?" I let her words hang before I answered. "Do you know what you did to me? All those years you stood by while she belittled me, while she treated me like a burden instead of blood. You didn't care about reputation then. You cared about appearances. And now? The appearance is simply the truth." She hung up on me. But I didn't cry. I didn't crumble the way I would have years ago. Instead, I leaned into the rhythm of my new life. I managed my tenants with care. I reinvested. I upgraded the building. I painted the halls in warm colors that reminded me of Grandma's touch. And when neighbors stopped me to thank me for fixing what Victoria had neglected, pride rose in my chest like sunlight breaking through clouds. One evening, as I was locking up the lobby, I saw Victoria standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed, her face pale beneath the streetlight. She didn't speak at first, just stared at me, as though searching for the sister who used to shrink whenever she raised her voice. At last, she whispered, "You've changed." I met her gaze without flinching. "No, Victoria. I've just stopped letting you control the story." She blinked, as if the words struck deeper than anger ever could. Her lips parted, ready to argue, ready to fight. But nothing came. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the pavement until they faded into the night. I stood there for a long moment, breathing in the quiet. For the first time in years, I felt free, not just from her, but from the heavy weight of needing her approval. My life was mine now, built brick by brick, deed by deed, choice by choice. And that freedom was worth more than revenge. It was justice, and it was mine. If this story has touched you, I hope you take this with you. You are not defined by the voices that underestimate you. You are not bound by the roles others force upon you. Sometimes the greatest power you will ever claim is the courage to own your story and to stand tall in it, no matter who tries to cut you down.